So the U.S. Surgeon General is a man named Jerome Adams. He happens to be black. And he has been giving these pressers and answering questions about what Americans should do. Well, in the middle of one of these pressers, he was asked specifically about the African-American communities, about Latino communities. Now, there have been tons of articles recently, like lots of them, about the disparate health impacts of COVID-19. And those articles have been focused heavily on the fact that Black and Latino populations have been harder hit by coronavirus than other populations. And this has led people like AOC to suggest that there is a disparity in healthcare in the United States. That's not what's going on here. It's led people to suggest that that disparities in wealth have led to disparities in health conditions. Some of that has been going on here. The idea is that America's pre-existing racism has led to these health conditions. And there is maybe some evidence that thanks to the wealth gap, that people are poorer, and if you're poorer, then you tend to eat less well. You don't eat as good food. But here's the reality of the situation. Right now in America, if you want to eat healthy, you should be able to eat healthy. Okay, people do have welfare. People do have food stamps. People do have access generally to a grocery store, even if, yes, you have to take a bus over to the grocery store that is not located in your 4-block radius. Okay, in any case, Jerome Adams gets up and he's talking about some of the contributing factors to lack of health in some minority communities. He says, we need to eat healthier. We need to exercise. We need to stop. If you're taking drugs, you need to stop taking drugs. If you're doing alcohol, you need to stop drinking alcohol. You need to do all these things. And he's not specifically directing that at Black and Latino people, but this is taken as though he is a racist for Jerome Adams, that he is a racist. He has internalized racism for suggesting that there are differential health outcomes between Black and Latino people in the United States and white people in the United States, which, again, is, I thought, what the message was for the past several weeks. The message for the past several weeks was the New York Times headline, right? Asteroid to hit Earth tomorrow. Women and minorities hit hardest, right? That's been the headline from the New York Times for a while, which is COVID-19 affecting everyone. Women and minorities hit hardest. Although in this case, it would be men and minorities hit hardest. In any case, here is Jerome Adams. Here's what he said. And then the reaction was just outsized and ridiculous.
Avoid alcohol, tobacco, and drugs. And call your friends and family. Check in on your mother. She wants to hear from you right now. And speaking of mothers, we need you to do this, if not for yourself, then for your abuela. Do it for your granddaddy. Do it for your big mama. Do it for your pop-pop. We need you to understand, especially in communities of color, we need you to step up and help stop the spread so that we can protect those who are most vulnerable.
He said pop, and he said big mama or grandma. How dare he? How dare he? So he's suggesting that maybe if everybody exercised personal responsibility, including in the Black community, and then he uses some language that he has heard in his own upbringing, right? He said this. He said, I used to call my grandpa pop, like, and people were like, oh, he's a racist. So Yamisha Alcindor, who can always be trusted for a hot take, she says that Adams was being racist when he said all of this stuff, that he's being a racist for pointing out health disparities. Again, you can't have it both ways. Either you want tremendous focus on the health disparities, which would include looking at things like personal behavior inside communities and how that is actually contributing to health disparities. Like if you eat a lot of fast food, right? People in minority communities are eating much more fast food than people who are not in minority communities, for example. Well, it depends on the minority community. Minority communities in like Los Angeles, for example, right? In the American South, lots of people eat fast food like all the time. In just by studies. But overall, it has been shown that Black Americans tend to eat fast food more than white Americans, just broadly speaking. Okay, does that contribute to obesity, which contributes to health effects, which actually have a problem for COVID-19? Yes. Is it bad for Adams to mention this? Apparently, you're only supposed to mention health disparities when you're going to blame the system at large or American racism at large. But when you're talking about personal activity and what you can do to change your risk from COVID-19, it's very bad and it makes you a racist. So here's Yamisha Alcindor doing this routine.
You said that African Americans and Latinos should avoid alcohol, drugs, and tobacco. You also said do it for your abuela, do it for Big Mama and Pop. There are some people there are some people online that are already offended by that language and the idea that you're saying behaviors might be leading to these high death rates. Could you talk about whether or not could you, I guess, have a response for people who might be offended by the language that you used?
Okay, again, if you are super offended, I just want to know, are we supposed to discuss the racial disparity or are we not supposed to discuss the racial disparity? And if we do discuss the racial disparity, is your chief complaint going to be that this Black Surgeon General is a racist for using language with regard to Latino grandmothers and grandfathers and aunts and uncles and like, really, that's where you're going to go? It seems to me you might be missing the point, deliberately, actually. It seems to me that you might be deliberately missing the point in order to focus in on narratives that confirm your priors, which is that American racism is everything when it comes to health disparities in the United States, and personal behavior has nothing to do with anything. Now, let me just say this. White, black, or green. If you would like to live through COVID-19, here are a few things that you can do. You can exercise. You can eat better. You cannot drink alcohol. You cannot do drugs. And if you are among a group of people who are doing that more often, particularly young people, don't do it. Okay, how about that? And if he's asked about health disparities and he answers about health disparities and he uses statistics to back it up, again, if you're focused in on the racism narrative at this point in time, I think that you're completely missing the boat. It's so funny. For 5 seconds, it was the virus unites us all. And then it went to the virus is terrible for Black and Hispanic people. And if you mention that there might be differentials in behavior, statistically speaking, with regard to some behaviors, then that's very, very bad. Or if you use language specifically to appeal to Black and Hispanic people for issues that affect everybody because you're talking to Black and Hispanic people, that's also very bad. What a stupid world we live in. I hope you enjoyed that clip from The Ben Shapiro Show. If you did, go ahead and hit the subscribe button so you stay up to date on all of our future content.